I am Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susi.
And we're paranormal specialists who live in the most haunted city on earth, Savannah, Georgia. Every day is Halloween in our line of work, so join us as we spin true tales of haunts, murders, and disturbing Savannah history. I'm Madison.
I'm Chris.
And welcome to the most haunted city on earth. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Most Haunted City on Earth. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susi.
And today we are here with Christine from And That's Why We Drink. Hello, Christine. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm so honored to be here. And I've only been to your haunted city one time, but I loved my time there. And it's one of the top bucket list places for me to return to. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, you definitely should make your way back to Savannah.
Gosh, it's such a cool town.
It's so cool. I mean, it's like every single day something new and spooky happens here. We just had this big hurricane, so now I'm waiting for what's about to get stirred up, I'm sure.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, first of all, you guys okay? It's a little late for me to be asking that, but I hope you're all right.
Oh, yep. We're all good. We finally have power back in the studio, which is great. Chris has power at his house now, which is...
Last night we got it back, so thank
Excellent.
goodness.
Wow. How long was it out for?
1 week.
Yep.
Boy, vey.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm so sorry. And I'm sorry, Batrick behind you, your neon bat, didn't get to light up for a couple days. That's really unfortunate.
Yeah, very lonely in the dark. Although we did take him on a trip.
Yeah, he got to come to my kitchen because
how fun.
we did an episode with Tiff from Tiff's Ghost Talk. And
cool.
We didn't want to reschedule with her. So we're like, it's fine. We'll just do a little makeshift setup in JT and I's kitchen. And so we brought Batrick. And
you got to bring Batrick.
Oh, yeah. So he just sat behind us and it was great.
I love that.
But yeah, we're really excited to have you. We came prepared today. I have boxed wine and Chris has his milkshake. So I guess you can say I'm team wine and he's team milkshake. But
that is correct.
That made my whole day. I'm now mad at myself for not bringing a box of wine, but I'm going to have it right after this as a reward.
Maybe you can answer my question. I had, it's been a long time since I've drank boxed wine, but mine is referred to as lush Pinot Noir. We've been trying to decipher why it is called lush.
What quality of wine makes it lush?
One thing that I'm so thankful that I proclaimed from episode 1 and every episode since is that I know nothing about wine whatsoever. And after 7 years, I still know barely anything. I mean, lush sounds good, I guess.
It
Juicy?
does.
I don't know.
It's not the first thing I think of with liquid, though. You know, I think of like a lush coat.
Fruit.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe they're like,
go.
it's like a juicy, I don't know. And I don't know if those words, especially on a box, often actually end up translating to the actual beverage. So hard to say. It might be more of a marketing
it says
ploy,
velvety, smooth, luscious.
It is luscious.
Again, none of the things that I look for in a wine.
Velvety, smooth.
Well, smooth.
Yeah,
I'd say smooth.
might work.
But velvety is a weird
you're right.
word
It sounds
too.
more like a plush throw. From yeah, that's true.
Hug this box of wine.
But I love a box of wine because you don't have to see how much you're drinking, which probably indicates I have a problem. But it's like, I don't know. Just fill up your glass. Don't worry about how much is left in the bottle.
Exactly. But that's
and really, you can fit a lot of wine in a box.
Hey, 3.5 liters, I think it is.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, because a bottle gets tapered and thinned out, and it's just a little bowl in there. But
we've moved past bottles in this day and age.
Not in this economy.
We need to
not in this economy. Are you kidding?
get the barrels of wine back into play.
Wouldn't that be lovely? We can smash the grapes ourselves. It'll be good.
But we're so happy to have you here, Christine. And for those of you who are listening or watching and you're wondering, where's Em? They unfortunately were not able to join us today because they had a family emergency going on. So we're thinking about you, Em, and we hope that everything's good.
I am too, Em. I hope you're okay. Yeah, everything's all right. But yeah, Em was like, we were supposed to record. Well, first of all, this has been, I was saying to them earlier, this kind of has been a cursed thing because every time we were going to record it, some like bizarre happenstance occurred where we would have to push it. And this time I was like, I'm not pushing this again. I'm just going to be here this time. Like you and Batrick in your kitchen. I'm going to make it. But yeah, Em and I had to record our episode at like 7 a.m. yesterday, which mean, I just say that to prove to everybody that it was an emergency, because we've never once in our lives recorded that early. So M does wish they could be here, but they're there in spirit. They're here in spirit. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe M will show up as a ghost.
Yeah. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. M likes to insert themselves wherever possible.
Fair enough.
But yeah, we are very
we'll cordially
excited.
invite both of you back to Savannah, and then you can be on the show in person.
Honestly, M's never been to Savannah, and I've been for 6 hours, so I think we could both use a refresher.
Yes,
course.
absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you guys need to. As fellow spooky people, you need to.
I mean, it's the perfect spot.
It really is.
And we've got the inside scoop on haunts and true crime.
We have the connect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We were really excited to see in your new book that y'all had Savannah included. And great choices, by the way, for the stories. The stories for Savannah, if you have not read the book yet, are the Gribble House murders for the true crime, which is personally one of my favorite true crime stories of the city's history. It's just so layered.
I had not known anything about it before. I was so surprised. That was one of the few where I said, oh my gosh, that's news to me.
It's actually the story I used to kick off my ghost tours, which I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. See, if I had stayed longer than 6 hours, I probably would have learned about it.
It's
in Savannah, I mean, I would have learned about this event before.
Not everybody talks about it, though, which
is... No, it doesn't get as much press as you think a triple axe murder would get.
Right? Yeah. Axe murders usually make it up to the top of the true crime list, like Villisca axe murder.
Yeah, I think the fascination with Lizzie Borden kind of overshadows all these others, because there's the
Villisca.
Yeah.
The Villisca axe murders, which are hyper compelling, but they take a back seat. And
you're so right. That must be what it is. I had forgotten about Lizzie and.
Because it's all around the same period. That's another weird thing. Because that's
alarming.
Yeah, within a decade of each other.
Everyone got the same idea. This isn't just for trees. We could use this for other terrible purposes.
Yeah,
I don't know, but you're
peculiar.
right. It's very timely.
Mm-hmm. But I also should probably mention what the book is. I just realized. I realized I just jumped right on into it because I'm excited about it, but. So it's actually a part 2, y'all. We have both of them here, Chris, if you want to hold up the other. Chris already owned this, so it was really exciting to get the second one.
I bought it for my kid for Christmas, and then I bought myself because I was reading it before I wrapped it. I was like, I love it.
I love it.
I love that. That makes me so happy. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, it's called A Haunted Road Atlas. So the first one, that's just the title of it. And the next one is Next Stop. Ooh. In a very gruesome looking font, which is fun.
Yeah, very, very crime font.
I love it. But it's honestly such a genius concept to be able to, say, oh, I'm going to be going to such and such, I'm going to California. What stories do they have in California? Or things like that. Basically, the way it's broken down, y'all, is essentially there's a true crime story and a paranormal story, which I love. That makes my little heart sing because I love true crime and ghosts. But also really genius as well that y'all included some local recommendations for these different towns, which...
That's usually M's forte. So if anything's wrong in the Savannah chapter, and because they're not here, I'm blaming them.
I love that. That's fantastic. Yeah, it's a fun read, to have just on your shelf and be able to reference it back. And if you're just looking for a nice little bite size, and also y'all link to your episodes too, right?
Yeah. So exactly. So any stories that we've already covered on the show, which there are several of them that we wanted to include because they were just so pertinent to that city. We put a little QR code in case people want to hear, more bantering and more nonsense about it. But yeah, I'm so glad you say that, because that is kind of the goal, was to make it not a traditional front to cover dry book. We just wanted, the way M described it was, well, M does not like to read, self-professed, not into books, and said, it has to be a book I would read. And I said, okay, that's fair. And so we tried to, we were inspired by Atlas Obscura and those kind of things, and tried to keep some pictures, basically saying you can just kind of flip through if you want to, you don't have to read it front to back, but but I'm happy to hear you guys like it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I enjoy books in encyclopedic format.
Yeah,
I like,
exactly.
getting like a story
Like bite-sized.
very bite-sized and very, dense with the information.
Right.
Because, you as much fun as it is to read a novel, I don't have time for that. Nobody's got
Who
for
has
that.
time for that, really? In this economy? Are you kidding?
I would.
Exactly. So my question really is, what was kind of the process for y'all deciding, what cities you wanted to cover, researching wise? Like, how was the journey, if you will, of creating the books?
Well, it was a journey, and it was a slightly painful journey because it took a long time. It was fun. What did M describes it always as? The most fun you never want to have again. It was a great experience, but like looking back, it's like, oh boy. So when we wrote the second one, we were especially prepared for, kind of a long journey, but it was really fun. I mean, I think Em and I have different approaches to the research, especially, but as far as we picked the cities, that's kind of funny because we actually had Savannah in the first book, or we were going to put Savannah in the first book. And so when we pitched the first book concept, we had Savannah in there as well as a bunch of other cities. And our publisher said, hey, just so you know, if you write all of these, it'll be like a 900-page book. And we said, wow. Okay, well, say no more. So we had to cut it way down. I think the first book had 30 to 32 cities. And so for the second book, we were extra excited because all those ones we had to, I was about to say axe. That was not, pun not intended.
It's in your brain.
All the ones, I know, it's like subconscious now. All the ones we had to axe were ones we got to bring back for book 2. So I was very excited about that because cities, especially Savannah, I was really excited to kind of dive into. And yeah, Em is as much better at the kind of finding the cool spots in every town and finding, haunted hotels and bars. And that's kind of how Em travels. I guess it's also a reflection of how we travel when we're on tour. I like to lay in my hotel bed. And well, I also have a toddler, so that might have something to do with it. But
Sure.
I like to just be horizontal and order room service. Meanwhile, Em, who usually wakes up at noon, gets up at 6 a.m., goes on every tour, goes to every hot spot, goes to every, like in New Orleans, was holding a baby alligator at like 8 a.m. And I was like not even awake yet.
I love it.
So Em and I, we have very different travel philosophies, I guess. And so it's kind of reflected in that, where I was just doing the research, and Em was like, oh, I've been to, Chicago. What are my favorite weird spots I've done? And so a lot of that is from Em's own personal experience too, which is why I leave that portion to Em, especially. But yeah, it's just so fun to be able to research stuff that you want to do and learn about. Like it felt extra. I feel bad complaining because it's not something worth complaining about, but it was a lot of work. But it was really a really fun project.
That's awesome. And I mean, it seems like it because it feels like you guys really had a good time, at least like researching, and you can feel your presence in the book, I should say.
It might also be our little illustrated avatars.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
We put our faces in it.
They're so cute. Yeah, if you can somehow see that, Debria, when you're editing this, you can crop in.
We tried to, for the first book, we had this grand idea of doing kind of a banter, because in the actual podcast, we wanted it to be kind of similar, where we're teaching the other person about the story and they can, respond with quips, that kind of thing. And in the first book, I feel like we tried to do that. It didn't quite translate as well as we hoped. So for the second book, we made that a priority. And I think in the second book, it was a lot more of those like little inserts and asides. And I will say reading the audiobook was quite bizarre, because it would be like, say this joke. And I was like, what does this mean? Like, I don't remember writing this. I'm sure I wrote it, but it would be like some dumb comment. And I would have to pretend like we were, because we recorded them separately. So that made it a little awkward. I don't know quite how the audiobook sounds, but in print, it's all right. We put our faces on it.
Exactly. Exactly. So was there a particular city that you enjoyed the most out of the book?
I did. I definitely was pushing for Savannah. I'm not just saying that. But because I've only been there for 6 hours, I didn't really have quite as much insight as some of the other spots. I think, let me just make sure that I'm not saying a city from the last book, because I have a couple that were the most fun for me. I mean, fun is also a stretch because it's, all terrible, terrible stories, of course. I think Louisville was one of my favorites because I live in Kentucky, and I barely know anything about Louisville. I've been there. I went there once for my COVID vaccine, like back in 2020. We had to drive down there. But I live like way up near in the Cincinnati area, so I'm never exploring the rest of Kentucky, and I always wish I could. So I was very excited to do the Louisville chapter. And honestly, Memphis and all the southern states and all the southern cities are just so much fun because there's just so much history. And as far as like the weird stuff to do, man, all these towns have plenty of options. So
Exactly.
I think those were my big ones, and I felt like I learned so much about kind of my area that I didn't know before. So,
Well, if you loved, because I know you included Waverly Hills, right?
yes,
In Louisville.
I believe M wrote Waverly Hills. Yes.
Yeah, so we actually just went to Waverly Hills.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
one of my bucket lists too. How was it?
It
Amazing.
was incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it? Did
Yeah,
you
we
see
got
the
to
crawler or whatever his name is?
Oh, yeah.
So we had
Creeper, the
experiences, and we weren't able to ascribe entirely to the crawler. We had instances that could have been, but we were particularly.
Berated.
Yeah,
if you will.
early on, a spirit grabbed onto us and wouldn't let us go.
Oh, boy.
So I think he was
it, like, through
bullying all the
a
others.
spirit box or something?
Yeah. Well, actually, several different devices.
Yeah, we particularly use the Estus Method.
Oh yeah, we love the Estus Method.
It's amazing, and so we were doing that, and we had an entity named Tim.
Not the boy.
No.
Not the little boy that everybody kind of ascribes the little boy to be named Tim or Timmy.
Oh, they do. Oh, so it's a different Tim.
It's
oh
a
my
different
Yeah.
Tim.
Yeah, what we gathered is that Tim either worked there or at least thought he worked there. Maybe he was a patient at some point because
I see.
he was a little out
Crotchety
there,
old man.
and he hated women.
He was a misogynistic,
Cool.
mean man.
Don't you love that? And you're like, well, nothing I can do.
Well, exactly, because the owner Tina, she was actually the one who told us because she loves to rag on him in investigations.
Oh, so she already knew about this guy.
Oh yeah.
jeez.
She knew all about him, and so she was like, "Be mean to him, get him riled up." Yeah, because she was like, "You're gonna get some type of experience," and we didn't even need to do that. He found us.
He
Yeah.
was ready.
He was
Yeah,
ready.
and so yeah, that was probably our biggest experience because we went in there expecting to encounter the creeper or whatever.
The
Yeah.
nurse on the 5th floor, the
Yeah,
child on
yeah.
the 4th floor. There's almost a map of ghosts in
Oh,
Waverly
that's so
Hills.
wild.
But we'd get to places and we'd start having experiences, but then they quickly devolve into Tim talk, which was a lot of misogynistic, a lot
Womp
of
womp.
yeah, exactly.
He's like that
and
guy at the party who like keeps cornering you, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna try to find my other friend.
yeah.
And
It
he's
would
like, hey, another
this,
thing.
Yeah, it would get to this point where we're doing it, and then a phrase would come up, and we'd all be like, "Oh, it's Tim!
God, he's back."
He's back!"
Where's that friggin' crawler creeper guy?
Yeah.
Come on,
Literally.
anybody.
Literally. Yeah. So, but we highly recommend that you go to Waverly
Oh, yeah.
Hills.
If you can do an overnight, do
love
an
to.
overnight. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're in northern Kentucky.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm driving distance. We should really make it a stop.
Yeah.
How far is that from you guys?
That was like 10 hours. wasn't
Yeah.
it?
It was,
Oh, geez. Okay, I'm very bad at geography. I'm like, that can't be that far, right? Oh,
Yeah.
never mind.
it was.
I'm wrong.
We drove,
Yeah,
but
we drove.
it was still
hike.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a leave at dark, arrive at dark kind of situation.
Right. Oh my gosh. Well, I think that sounds fun. I'm gonna pitch that to M as our next spot, maybe.
Yeah.
And also, if you're in northern Kentucky, are you familiar with a small town called Mayville?
I thought you were gonna talk about Bobby Mackey's. I was like, I'm very familiar with Bobby.
Oh,
Mackey.
Bobby Mackey's is
It's
on our
gone
list.
now.
I do know. I know. Well, we were one of the last people actually to go. Well, I'm not supposed to say that.
Yeah, it's all right. Don't listen.
It's fine. I've popped in there once or twice, but no, the Maysville. I do know about Maysville, but can't put my finger on it.
It's right up at the top of Kentucky. It's where my grandmother lives, and so, but very underrated haunted town. If you ever are looking
Really,
for like a small
The
town
name
haunt,
sounds. I love a small town. I love a small town haunt. Maysville, Kentucky. Yeah, I mean that must be. It's like an hour from me. Yeah, no, I've never been there, but
super
just from the
cute,
photos alone, looks very quaint.
very
Railroad
cute.
Museum. Oh, Underground Rail Museum, even better. Yeah, I would love to check that out. Listen, I'm all for a road trip, even though that's pretty obvious with the book. But
Exactly.
You have written 2 road atlases, so
I
think,
guess so. I guess I should finally put them to use, huh?
Fair enough. But yeah, the reason why I mentioned that is because if it is like an hour from you, they have an opera house there where one of the performers, she died underneath the stage in the dressing room, and they buried her in the dressing room floor.
Huh?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Why? Did she want that? Yes.
Not a clue. Yeah, when I was there for Thanksgiving last year, my mamaw had set me up with the mayor, and so she was like,
Sure.
yeah, she was like, he's gonna show you around downtown and all the spooky things, and I was like, great. And so he's like, let me take you into the opera house, and he points at this kind of rectangle shape in the floor, and he's like, there's a body under there.
Nope, there you go.
You know, he just loves that. He's like, this is my favorite part of the job. I get to watch your face.
Exactly. And they seem like they're the types that would let you investigate.
Oh, sure.
Now, listen, I'm in. And if the mayor is going to show us around, man, that's awesome. Your mamaw has the hookup, huh?
Oh, absolutely.
I'll have the mayor show you around. No big deal.
Yeah, she's born and raised in Mayville, so she knows all of them. But
she's in it. Yeah.
oh
Love
yeah,
that.
but yeah, Haunted Kentucky has been definitely a
yeah.
part of our year.
We did spend a lot of time on Kentucky.
Really?
Kentucky
Okay.
cryptids, Kentucky ghost stories.
Yeah, I grew up in Ohio, and so for me, I never really, even though I was right on the border of Kentucky, I was always like, that's not part of, I just kind of I ignored it for the most part. But now that I live in, again, like 10 minutes from where I grew up, it's not like I'm in a totally different part of the country, but something about living in Kentucky, you learn a lot more about, all the cool stuff down here. So I feel like and we did move during COVID. It was May of 2020. So I feel like, it's finally time where we can start really exploring and getting back out there. But that is why we wrote the first book, actually, because we wrote it during COVID, because we thought, well, no one's traveling, but we miss traveling and we look forward to traveling. So it was kind of like a little outlet.
Exactly. And on your travels with doing your tours and whatnot, did you ever have any paranormal encounters?
That's a great question. Where we had the most was New Orleans, which is probably the least surprising thing.
Sure.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And every time we go, I pick a different haunted hotel. There was one time where there was seemingly this ghost named Michael, a little boy who hung out in my room and would always mess with the TV. I had an iPad, and he figured out how to like turn on some bizarre music app that I'd never even downloaded, like just strange technology stuff where we kind of got the feeling he was just pressing buttons, on things. The remote, all the volumes would change, the channel would change. And it wasn't until we put on the Flintstones on TV that he seemed to just like quiet down. We were like, I wonder if he's just watching TV now. Like he's just sitting and watching cartoons or anything.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, it felt like we were like, we're good babysitters. Just turn the TV on, like go to bed. So we've had a lot of like strange little things like that happen. I would think it was at that same hotel, which now come to think of it, it was probably also this little boy, Michael. I kept hearing someone knock on the door, and I was convinced it was M, because every time I would look, like nobody was there, and I kept looking. So then one time I waited, and then someone knocked on the door, and I whipped the door open, and there was nobody in the hallway. And I was like, oh no, okay. I really thought M was going to be like crouching down here. And I texted M, and M literally sent me a picture. They were on the toilet. They sent a picture of the shower and were like, I swear to God, it's not me. I'm in the bathroom right now. And I was like, oh no. But it was a very clear knocking. And that preceded all the Michael stuff that night. So yeah, we've definitely had some fun instances. I would say, thankfully, nothing too, troubling or scary or traumatizing, knock on wood. But we're also the kind who are like you guys, probably excited about that kind of thing. So
absolutely.
We're not quite as traumatized as maybe some other people who are just trying to enjoy like a peaceful evening might be.
People who aren't aware that it's a haunted hotel.
Right. And are like, what's happening to my iPad? Yeah. And then we did a tour there later that night, I think. And the tour guide walked past our hotel and goes, oh, and up there on the 5th floor, which is of course where we were staying, there used to be an orphanage and it burned down. We're like, okay, well, great.
Well,
so
there you go.
an orphanage on our, where the children lived on our floor. So I thought, well, that's,
leave the cartoons on.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was gonna say Flintstones. You guys got it. Not touching it.
I feel like kid ghosts are always the easiest to manage or they're the most invasive.
Right.
They're so in between.
It's one or the other.
The easiest to have connection with, like to get banter with, to get back and forth
I absolutely agree. It's almost like they're more playful, I think.
Right.
But have you ever encountered one where you're like, oh, what if it's not a child? Because that's when I get freaked out, you know?
Yeah,
You're like,
absolutely.
oh, it's a kid, or is it?
We were actually talking about a spirit at the Andrew Lowe House.
Yep.
People keep seeing a child spirit. And it's like, I don't think it's a child spirit. What we call it a pilot fish. You know, those fish that have the light. We're like, I think there's
Pilot
something
fish, that's so smart.
like projecting a child
It's like
to draw
bait
you
almost.
close.
Yeah.
Because there's no story that correlates to having a child there, but there is a dark presence there, and people get this dark presence, but they're being drawn in by, oh, I just saw a little girl, or I just saw a little kid run around the corner there.
Thing. Yes,
and so, that was the theory that we came up with.
What house is that?
The Andrew Lowe.
I don't know that one.
It's
So it's Juliet Gordon Lowe, the founder of the Girl Scouts.
Oh,
It's the actual house. Her husband, Andrew Lowe, is the house she was living in when she founded the Girl Scouts. So there's the birthplace, which is a block away, where
oh
Juliet
my gosh,
Gordon
which
was
I love
born.
that it's a child ghost, like a Girl Scout.
Right.
It's
Well,
like,
and that was one of the things that early in the conversations, people were like, "Do you think it might be just a Girl Scout?" Because the first headquarters was in the carriage house there. Now, could it just be, a child who maybe passed as a child and just has fond memories and stays here? It's like we just don't have enough connective material for that
to match that.
Right.
And is that in Savannah?
Yes.
Or near you guys? Oh, cool. Okay. No, jeez, man, you guys have everything, huh?
yeah.
The international headquarters for Girl Scouts are
I had
right
no
in
idea.
downtown Savannah, and Juliet Gordon Lowe, the founder, was born and raised here.
That's pretty
Born
cool.
on Halloween.
Yep.
Really?
Yes. It makes a lot of sense for her, honestly.
Yeah.
She was a
Does
spooky
it?
lady.
She was.
I love that. Wow. I mean, I guess living in Savannah, it's kind of, you're already built into the vibe.
Yeah, and the house in general is so creepy. Both her birth home and the Andrew Lowe House are unbelievably haunted.
Really?
And they're both museums that you can
They are.
I
visit
would
and
never
walk
have
through.
guessed that the Girl Scouts founder's house was haunted. I would never have guessed.
And she died in the house too, which is
Oh, that'll do it.
and
Well, so did her mother and father.
yep.
Oh, good. Family affair.
Family home.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was I used to work for a tour company in town that had access to that house at night, and that was where the theory really started, because I would always be like, because I see spirits and I'm like, the little boy ghost and the little girl ghost are never in the house at the same time, which is really odd. And I saw one time, because I'm going to eventually, it's going to get me one day, my curiosity. But I was in the house working, and we were in between tours. And so I'm like wandering around, and I see the little girl ghost, and it goes into the front parlor. So I'm like, I'm going to follow it. And I go in there and I see it crawl, like the little girl crawl underneath one of the couches in there.
Absolutely
And
not.
I look down and it's gone.
Absolutely
because it turned into an entity that was like black as night, standing on its fingertips, like crouched down on its fingertips. And I'm like, nope, that's it. I'm done. I'm done being in
You
this
saw
house.
that? Oh, God, help me. Oh, no. Oh, no.
But that's why we drink.
Yeah, that's why I drink,
Exactly.
certainly. If Em were here, Em would be losing their mind. I swear, when we go anywhere and do an investigation, I'm always the one that's like the least phased. And I think I'm just more curious. I'm like, no, let's go follow. And Em and Eva are such little, and Eva's our producer, are such little chickens sometimes. I'm like, we're here to see go. Like, for example, this is where I'm going to just complain about Em for a moment while they're not here to defend themselves.
By all
Sometimes
means.
Em will say, make a sound if you're here. And then there'll be a sound, and Em will be like, and run out of the house. And I'm like, you literally just asked them to do that. If you start screaming at them for doing it and saying stop, you're giving mixed signals. Anyway. So I'm more like you in that I probably would have followed, but I don't know that I would have been brave enough to look underneath. And I think that's probably for the best.
No, it is for the best, honestly.
Okay.
It's far better to protect yourself at times like that.
Yeah, I get it. Are you both that way, or are you?
No,
do you have
I
okay.
I call myself hyper vigilant. I'm
That's kind of the M vibe. Yes.
I'm
yes.
paranoid.
Yes, yes. And
so
Em will convince everybody that everything's a ghost, and I'm like, my cat. I just watched my cat knock that over, and I was like, I'm not sure. I think it was a demon. And it's like, okay,
that is reasonable.
It's reasonable. Yeah.
If you put me in a dark place, I'll be like, what was that? Do you hear that? Do you feel that? Do you sense that?
Probably crawling on its fingers under the couch.
Something just touched me. Something just touched me. Okay, maybe it didn't, but it could have. It might have.
But it might have.
Especially when we go to places like Waverly Hills, because when you go there one day, you'll know it is everything could be hiding behind a corner or
Well, there are these long corridors with these doors on each side, and as you're walking through, you can't help whether it was actually happening or your imagination. The shadows are moving in such unnatural ways.
Like around corners almost.
Right.
Like
because there's light coming in from outside, and there's, if you have a flashlight, it's kind of refracting everywhere.
Right.
And as you're walking, we kept seeing what looked like somebody in the doorway just stepping back.
And that makes it so much scary to walk past. You're like, I don't want
and then you're like, okay, I'm up at a door that I thought there was something there. And then you see it out of the corner of this eye. It's like, oh, nope, it's over there.
I don't like those games. And also, I doing the true crime half of the podcast, then sometimes I get paranoid in my own head of like, what if there is a person here and that's more dangerous than a ghost probably? And,
Yeah.
My brain just goes all directions.
I generally avoid true crime myself for that reason, because
I don't blame you.
It's like, people suck.
People are way worse.
At least with ghosts, they've already died and paid for it.
Exactly.
Like,
and it feels like a little bit less of an active threat than most of the time.
I don't like thinking about the condition of humanity at present.
At present, like, and it's affecting us now.
It weighs down on you, and you're like, there are people who are this distressed and this, suffering in this way or being made to suffer in this way.
100%.
And the more time you spend looking at it, I accidentally recently bought, I want to say about 200 items of true crime paraphernalia.
What do you mean accidentally?
I'm investing in like haunted goods and haunted things.
Sure.
And in this lot were letters from serial killers, paintings and art from serial killers.
I can't wait.
All these crazy stuff. Yeah, we'll introduce into
You're
the show.
You're going to have to do a big unboxing of that. Yeah.
Yes.
But it's one of those things where I even told the guy, I was like, can you just leave that out? He's like, no.
He's like, you take it all.
It's like,
please.
I just want these things. And he's like,
is it like a storage unit or is it like an eBay thing?
So it was a museum that closed.
Oh, wow.
And so he just wanted to get rid of all of his stuff, but he had both paranormal and
you got to take all of it.
And it's like, it's all or nothing. And I was like,
wow. I mean, that's fascinating. I don't love the serial killer objects. Like I'm like, bad vibes. No, get away, you know? Right. And like when they make like artwork and it's like put up on display, I'm like, let's not give them any sort of, credit. Like, please, So I'm more on the like, I'm probably more creeped out by actual murder items than like haunted dolls.
I think that's one of the weirdest like collectibles available is like paraphernalia. Like, for instance, I was just put in contact with a cannibal.
Oh my gosh!
And it's fascinating because he has his own museum
of his cannibal stuff, or
so
is it?
This is.
I like how you're surprised. You're like, hang on.
So when you start looking for strange and curious oddities, there's a network of people that you kind of get introduced to.
I thought you were going to say the strange and oddities find you.
Well, it's true. And what happens is they're like, oh, you should meet this person, or you should know this person, or here's this thing. And this person apparently was a convicted murderer who served his time. When he got out, he opened a murder museum about his own murders. And he... I
can't believe there's not a law.
Hang on. Then he went to Germany, where there was that guy who ate that case. Yeah. So when that case happened, the Germans issued that they're going to basically raze his apartment, just destroy it, everything in it. This guy went into the apartment before they razed it and took all the stuff out and recreated that guy's house in his museum.
That is too far, my friend.
Yeah.
Yes, it
is. Wow.
But then you're like, oh, okay, that's creepy.
Right.
That's very, very creepy.
And people pay to see. I mean, this is wild.
Of course,
it's like a public entry museum. Like you can just go.
Yes, I believe so. I limited my contact.
I think that's probably
he also wrote because I think he's a practicing cannibal.
I think say Catholic, and I was like, oh no.
Well,
Okay.
depending on what you believe about the Eucharist and right, exactly.
I was like, oh my God, has he been Catholic this whole time, and you've just been calling him cannibals?
Oh my God, I've been calling all of them cannibals.
Eating the body of Jesus.
Stop eating the body.
I mean, seriously.
But yeah, apparently there are legal loopholes that allow you to eat human flesh in other countries.
Listen, honestly, I should not. I'm not surprised. At the end of the day, I'm not surprised. No. People will find a way.
Yes.
Yeah. There's so since we're on the topic of true crime, since we talked about your favorite town for paranormal, what's your favorite town that you did for true crime?
Actually, no, that one was Louisville, because so I wrote all the true crime stories in the book and wrote all the paranormal ones.
Gotcha.
I'd actually forgotten Louisville was Waverly Hills, so that was M. But I wrote a story from Louisville called the Pink Triangle Murders.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it was so disturbing because I just was so surprised I'd never heard of it. And it was such a I mean, I don't know how much anybody else knows about it, but it's basically it was like a love triangle gone wrong, and there's three men who lived in this like unbelievably gorgeous. I'm a huge fan of history and old buildings, and they lived in this like unbelievably gorgeous historic mansion in Louisville, and in a very like queer part of town. And so these two men who seemingly had like a really lovely, happy, they were like professionals in their industries, and this like gruesome murder happened, and they ended up burying the guy in their own basement. And like, talk about, I mean, it was like a love triangle basically gone terribly wrong. And the fact that it happened relatively recently, and a lot of this stuff, you know, their trials you can find all that online, and that really fascinated me. I think because of just the wild plot twists of that story, but also because in most of the documentaries, you get to kind of go inside these old houses and just see. And this house in particular is believed to have a curse on it. I mean, I know that's kind of
always
iffy, always have a curse on it. But there's some really wild history to the house alone, where I think this guy tried to open it as like a convalescent hospital, but he was scamming people, you know, back in the early 1900s.
Old Louisville?
Yes.
Near the witch's tree?
Could very well be. I'm trying to remember the name of it.
I think I do remember this story.
And it felt like, when you look back at the history, it was almost like, wow, these, and I'm not saying they're connected, but but it's just so fascinating to be able to go back a couple hundred years and be like, wow, there's tragedy upon tragedy happening here.
Like there's like a sliver of old neighborhood, old like beautiful houses and stuff. And
it's gorgeous, that whole neighborhood, really. Yeah. But yeah, let me see. Pink Triangle Murders, and the name of the town, which I will have right now. Old Louisville, yes, Old Louisville, the historic Richard Robinson House. And it's 9,000 square feet. So you already knew it.
I actually went there.
You did?
Yes, because I had I printed out a thing, because the witch's tree is in that area too, which is this tree that, you know, they believe that if you cut it down, horrible things will happen. And so I had a little pulled up on my phone. I'm holding it like paper. It was on my phone, but it was just a list of the things around there of interest, you know, paranormally or stuff like that. And so I was able to just take a walk around that neighborhood, and I do remember that story because it was like buried in the floor. I don't remember that somehow.
Yeah, it's
scratching
very
back in my brain.
I think that's why I remembered it too. There was something like very peculiar about it, and I mean, the house alone is like 9,000 square feet. It's just
a giant mansion, beautiful,
huge. Yeah. And then to think like, oh, this is this beautiful like old historic neighborhood, and then, you know, there's just somebody buried under the floorboards. It feels like out of a movie, you know.
Right.
Very Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, it is very Edgar Allan Poe, and then but make it gay, you know. And then
that fits too.
I don't know. Have you seen how Edgar Allan Poe dresses?
Okay,
He's
very
snazzy.
He loved a frill. He loved a frill.
He did.
But yeah, anyway, I also learned while researching that story that disco balls were invented in Louisville, and they have the highest production of disco balls in the world. So
that
fun fact.
Is such a good fun fact.
Isn't that random?
That is so
super
random.
Yeah. So anyway, I think Louisville for some reason really stuck in my head because the story, first of all, but then also because, like I said, I'm in Kentucky, and I'm like, man, who knew? Right near me.
That's always the coolest thing, is when you find a story and it's strangely, hidden, even though it seems like a large story.
Like it should be connected.
Yeah, it's
yes.
I know this place. I know these places. I've been to these places, and you're telling
That's
me.
how I feel about that cannibal museum you're talking about.
Yeah,
How
exactly.
have I missed that?
This is the kind of thing that we should worry about. I mean, this guy wrote a book, a cookbook, a cannibal cookbook.
Oh, for God's sake! I've
you
heard
can buy
about that.
if you want.
I think that guy. I think I know what. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
He said, "I'm going to monetize on my on my problems."
Yeah, and he is nailing it.
Yeah, he is.
Sounds like he's nailing it. Unfortunately.
Oh my God, where is the demand for a cannibal cookbook?
You don't want to know.
Oh no!
It's probably closer than you think.
Yeah, it's probably everyone who listens to my podcast and your podcast.
Probably.
There's the Venn diagram.
Yeah, there certainly is. Yeah, I don't doubt it. I really don't. Also, I typed in cannibal cookbook, and there are many different ones.
Really?
So, yeah, you just take your pick.
Just in case you are low on recipes for human flesh.
Oh.
Yeah, listen, I'm not involved, but you guys do you, whoever you are.
Exactly.
Well, apparently, as long as it's consensual, it's not against the law.
Em and I've had very long conversations about that in some of the stories I've covered where we get into the nitty gritty of like, well, what's technically ethical and moral versus legal versus, wow, it gets dicey.
Well, I mean, that whole case was phenomenal, just a phenomenal examination of human nature.
Yes, yes. That's probably why it's so interesting.
Right, how somebody could become so compelled with a notion and an idea and not be able to strike it, not be able to get rid of it, because it's absolutely abnormal to want that.
I would say.
And there's what is
like
it?
A compulsion.
Like there are compulsions to eat things that aren't food.
Right.
Some people eat
Chalk.
dirt or chalk or soap
Paper.
or things like that. Mm-hmm. And it's like, could it be that type of compulsion?
Right.
Or is there something even much deeper and darker and more ancient in it?
I find it fascinating. Fascinating.
Well, and any of you who are worried out there that there are just cannibals lurking amongst us, if you have tattoos, Jeffrey Dahmer said that tattoos ruin the taste of human flesh.
No way. Are you serious?
Yes.
Thank God.
I know. I'm like,
got him on all the good parts.
I'm good.
Too, like the fatty parts,
Exactly.
So that's good to know. Yeah.
I'm ready. I am prepared.
You're prepared.
The next time my mother complains about my new
funny.
tattoo, I'm going to be like, I'm protecting myself.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
So I don't know. Do y'all cover cults a lot at all?
We do cover quite a few cults. I just did the Branch Davidians, the Waco
sure.
siege. That was a doozy that I'd been waiting for like years to cover because I was like, that's just a lot. So that's the most recent one. But yeah, we do love a cult story. Yeah.
There is, when you come to Savannah, we're giving you all the tea on what to...
I was going to say, I'm going to need you to write this down later because my brain's like a sieve.
Exactly.
But, if you write it down, Em and I will take your little
pamphlet
miniature atlas, your Savannah atlas, and take it and run with it. So
exactly.
Yes, please, all the tips.
There is a cult in Savannah called the 12 Tribes.
Well, actually, 12 tribes are all throughout the Southeast, but there is a cult here.
They're actually worldwide. Yeah. I've been collecting their cult literature.
All 12?
Oh yeah. Right.
They run bakeries. And
I've heard, okay, yep, I know this.
Yes.
They have like a restaurant?
The Yellow Delis.
Yellow
Delis.
Yep.
Yes. Oh my God. My brother went to one recently because he's vegan. And he's like, oh, there's a vegan place. And then he went in and he's like, this is really strange. And then he ended up Googling it and was like, oh, I just ate lunch at a cult.
It's really strange.
Ours is called Mate Factor.
Yep.
And yeah, and you can go to it. It's right in the middle of downtown. It's walking distance from my house. So I oftentimes will walk my dogs over there to gather the latest
intel.
Intel, yeah. Reconnaissance.
Because it's only a matter of time before it's a true crime story.
Yes.
You know it's coming, right?
You're
like, oh, I'm on the ground as it's happening. Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because you can always tell who's in the cult because they have to wear the harem pants and they have
their uniform.
They have uniforms, and the women have to cover their hair and wear braids and stuff. And I think the craziest thing I saw one time was I was sitting in front of Mate Factor and I saw somebody walk out of the restaurant, and they have a house that's directly across the street from them. And he walks out with, I kid you not, a horn like a antelope horn.
Oh, sure.
And he goes to the front of the house and blows it right at 5 o'clock. And I have no idea what that means. But I'm like,
nothing good. I was
like,
you.
It was the most.
First of all, did your dog freak out? My dog would have freaked the F out.
Absolutely. My dog, well, one of them is very kind to everybody, doesn't care, but the other is very suspicious of anyone. And so,
as is appropriate.
Yes.
Like.
And so Argyle, the suspicious one, she, from the second this man walked out with that horn, she was like, there's something wrong.
Something's happening.
Exactly. So I think either it was a dinner bell or they were about to start a ritual. Those are my theories.
Well, yeah, a call to meeting. You know, everyone gather. Something is going to happen.
Like what did it sound
like?
Yeah,
it was like,
and if you heard that, you'd probably be like, oh, that's a weird sound. But like then you look and it's a guy with a freaking antelope horn. Forget it.
It's the wildest thing. So when something eventually happens
we'll be right on top of it.
You guys are gonna probably see it. Like you walking the dog. It sounds like you're gonna witness it in action.
Yeah. We'll give you
this is quite crazy.
It is. It's very interesting. Read on their website. They have like a whole 30-page doctrine of like all of the rules, disciplining children, like literally everything. It is the wildest cult.
You know that's going to be a true, like you said, it's going to be a true crime in a matter of time.
Oh, yeah.
It's only a matter of time with
Absolutely.
things. They never end well, you know.
They never end well. And that's the funny thing. I was like, no cult ever ends well. But the truth of the matter is we only know about the cults that end poorly.
You know what? That's a great point.
There might be plenty of cults out there that are just doing fine.
That's a great point. The siege on Waco was definitely headline for a reason, and it wasn't.
Right.
It was
exactly.
all going smoothly. Yeah.
But,
wow. Ooh, I have like actual goosebumps. Ooh, that's freaking me out. That guy with the horn and he goes across the street. Ooh.
It's super creepy, but that's Savannah for you. But
honestly, I'm so excited. We gotta actually book a trip. Maybe I can pitch like a live show in Savannah.
You should.
That would be awesome.
I'm sure you guys have some really beautiful venues too, like old.
I'd say the Lucas Theater.
The Lucas Theater or the Savannah Theater. Either one is perfect for it.
Yeah. I'm gonna pitch that. I'm gonna say, you know what?
And the Savannah Theater is a famously haunted theater.
See, even better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm in.
So since we're about
to have to convince everyone else.
Exactly. So since we're about to hit the 5-minute mark, anybody who is in the live stream, if any of y'all have any questions that you'd like to ask Christine, speak now or forever hold your peace.
I'm an open book, people.
Yes. So for those of you who are listening, we are currently live streaming for the Parajunkies. So let us know if you have any spooky.
That's so fun, Parajunkies.
They named themselves that. We always like to.
Don't you love when people name themselves and you're like, that was easy. I didn't even have to brainstorm it. Yeah.
Well, Chris, it started because Chris had called it when people have their first paranormal experience. That it's like ghost heroin, and they are always looking to.
And then you're like chasing the high.
Exactly. You're chasing the high.
Yeah. I can get that.
And they ran with it. And so they named themselves the Parajunkies. But it's cute. We like it.
I think it's pretty cute. We tried to come up with a name, and then somebody said boozers and shakers, like movers and shakers with booze and milkshakes. Boozers and shakers. And we said, that's really long and a lot of syllables. But that is the only one that has stuck for like 7 years.
Boozers and shakers.
I don't know how, but they've kept it up. And I'm like,
it sounds like a strip club.
Doesn't it? It
does.
Sounds like a cigar bar / strip club / like I don't know. But yeah, I've always wondered if that would ever die out, and it seems like the people make the choice. And,
yes, they want to identify themselves.
They're right. Yeah, I'm like, because that's your call, you know.
It's like, are you a boozer or are you a shaker?
I guess I'm a shaker.
I'm a boozer, apparently.
I'm certainly a boozer, but I knew that already.
Yeah, the Nighthawk box wine. It is lush.
Nighthawk.
Yeah.
Can I see the brand? So the one, oh wait, I think I like that one.
Yes. Yeah, it's not
good.
It's not bad.
Which is exactly what you want to hear about a wine. Not bad.
I mean, that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, exactly.
I've had some that are not good.
I
it's
believe
mostly
that.
like the strawberry Franzia ones, you know, where it's just like, this is a headache waiting to happen.
Exactly.
I think my favorite is the Boda box, though. That's always a hit.
Oh, this is by Boda. So
it is Boda. Okay,
yeah.
so that's their like Halloween-y one, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
One. Yeah.
Our
Is it lush though?
It is lush.
Is it lush and velvety?
It is. It is viscous.
Oh,
If you-
oh.
Oh, cool.
That's my word for it.
So, yeah, great.
Like kind of glumpy.
I got chocolate
Right.
milkshake. It's awesome.
Yeah.
That should be viscous, I think, not the wine.
I don't like the word viscous with my
not great.
with my
It's
consuming
not
of things. It's just
When you're eating it.
no. That's motor oil and
Feels like
blood.
it should be-
That's all you
yeah,
get.
it feels like it should be. Ooh, not
Don't
edible.
don't ew.
She's just a little thick. That's
She's just a
okay.
little thick.
But
Oh my god.
ooh, okay. So, EO Serenity said, I may have missed it if it was mentioned earlier, but what is something that happened to you or heard of that was the most profound, scary story you have heard or have happened to you?
Oh boy. Okay, the most scary story I've ever heard or happened to me. Wow. I will say, actually, the one that I think rattled me the most was at the Waverly House in San Diego. I don't know if you two have been there, but it's really cool. I mean, the neighborhood alone is really cool. It's like the touristy part of San Diego, and it's just so fun and beautiful all the time because it's San Diego. And margarita shops galore. And you're in this like tiny little old house, and it feels very small and quaint, but we had probably the most activity out of any place we've ever investigated in this small place. We were in there. They have like this tiny little almost vaudeville theater upstairs where they would used to do performances like in the, I don't know, late 1800s, early 1900s. And I was sitting on this little stage, and our tour guide said something like, oh, people have a lot of luck with asking the spirits to use their energy to like move things. And I was like, okay. And of course, Em and Eva were like, hell no. And I said, fine, I'll do it. And so I sat down and I started doing this kind of like meditative trance. And I said, like, you can use my energy to move something. And I swear to God, like moments later, we heard a creaking sound. We were kind of like, what is that? And then there's just this like deafening crash. And there was this huge wooden kind of like poster plaque thing on the back of the theater that had just like launched itself off face first, had hit like a bench, had smashed onto the ground. And the tour guide, first of all, Em was downstairs, did not come up to check. Just was like, what was that? You guys alive? All right, I'm not coming up there. And I was like, something just launched off
The ghost is
wall
coming for you.
Yeah, it was very alarming. And I think we have it on camera. And of course, when we showed it on our last tour, I would like zoom in and slow-mo because I was like, look, you guys, it's just flying off the wall. But I think that was one of the most alarming because I was in that kind of like trance state, kind of like when you're doing an Estus Method and you're just like so in it, you're not even paying attention. And then to have that like alarming, just like floor vibrating crash was probably the most unsettled. And I've kind of stopped asking ghosts to use my energy because I'm like,
Yeah, that's
That's
not
valid.
not the best.
use your own energy.
Yeah.
If you're gonna break the house, don't do it on my dime. You know?
Exactly. But alrighty, y'all, we are out of time. But thank you so much, Christine, for joining us.
So fun, and I'm honestly very inspired by your backdrop, and I think I would like my own cool spooky Batrick.
Do it. It's
Backdrop.
we
I
love it.
And this is the season to be shopping for that kind of thing.
I was gonna
Exactly.
say now
know.
it's everywhere. I could walk into Target and find one. Yay!
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Actually, Batrick did come from Target. So
No way.
Yeah.
Maybe I knew that because I feel like in my brain I was like, I've seen that somewhere. Yeah.
Yes. So technically, you could be a twin with us
You
with
too
Batrick.
could own a Batrick Junior.
Batrick baby. But
Oh, baby Batrick.
I love it. But thank you so much, Christine. You are an absolute delight. And again, we're sending M love and their
Thanks,
family.
guys.
But
You guys are the best. This was so fun. And we will have to do a Savannah reunion because I would really like to go down there. And I've been following you on the TikTok. And I'm like, man, you
Yay.
guys have a lot to teach me and show me. So
awesome. Well, we will make that happen for sure.
Absolutely.
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And thank you so much, y'all, for everybody listening. And hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. If you don't already follow us, you can follow us at hauntedcitypodcast.com. Well, Haunted City Podcast on all of the platforms, hauntedcitypodcast.com for more information about things that we're up to and whatnot. And what are the social media links for y'all?
Oh, yes. I always forget this. Thank you for remembering. We can be found anywhere at ATWWD Podcast or and that's why we drink.com. And that has basically everything in one spot. So try to
Awesome.
not keep it too complicated, you know.
Perfect. Well, Awesome. Thanks, y'all. And if you would like to get the book, it is called A Haunted Road Atlas. Next stop. That is the second book. But first, go read the first book, just A Haunted Road Atlas. Anywhere where you can get your books, I'm assuming, right?
Anywhere, yeah.
They make great gifts.
They do. And Christmas is very quickly barging its way into our spooky season. So
It really is trying
We need to start working on our Halloween gift giving.
exactly.
We need to make that a thing, yeah.
So awesome, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susi.
And stay spooky, y'all.